Bookmonger is sponsored by Casper Mattresses, an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly low price. It has just the right sink, just the right bounce. It combines two technologies, latex foam and memory foam, to come together for better nights and brighter days. You have a risk-free trial and return policy. Try sleeping on Casper for 100 days with free delivery and painless returns. These mattresses are made in America. Just $500 for a twin-size mattress and $950 for a king-size mattress. That's an excellent price compared to industry standards. Get $50 toward any mattress purchase by visiting www.casper.com/book and using BOOK as your promo code. And now, the Bookmonger. Hello and welcome to The Bookmonger. I'm John J. Miller of National Review. Thanks for listening. Our guest is Roger Scruton, author of Fools, Frauds, and Firebrands, Thinkers of the New Left. Roger, this book has an amazing backstory. What happened when you published the first version of it, called Thinkers of the New Left, in 1985?
Well, it essentially brought my career as an academic philosopher to an end. There's an outcry from the establishment, all of whom are left or left liberal, who accuse me not of just of intellectual bad manners, but of being totally incompetent. The proof being that I was not persuaded by the kind of rubbish that they were persuaded by. But the publisher got all kinds of abusive letters, and the book had to be withdrawn from the press, essentially.
So was it censored, or were you censored?
It's not exactly censored. No, the people on the left don't directly censor things. They look with compassion on your stupidity and take you quietly aside and recommend that you perhaps retire from the scene for a while, and recover over a cup of tea somewhere.
So was this the end of your academic career?
Well, it was essentially, it made me realize that I didn't have much of a place in a university, and the abuse that came from it was really quite hard to take. Everything that I wrote after that was adversely reviewed, and really, except for a few of my students, most people thought that I was totally incompetent anyway.
Now, if you could do it all over again, would you still publish that same book?
Well, I have done, but of course in a different circumstances. After the fall of communism, and after a lot of heart searching by people on the left, and also I've included a few more thinkers and amplified the argument. I think one has to do these things. I was quite stunned by the response, however, when I did first publish it. I didn't expect anything quite so harsh.
So 3 decades have passed. You have updated it with this new edition of the book. Exactly what's new in Fools, Frauds, and Firebrands?
I've expanded the argument and put a few new victims in. Since then, we've had a sudden resurgence of radical leftist views from people like Alain Badiou and Zizek, who's everywhere these days. Also, I thought that it was time to say something about the terrible degradation of the language of political science and social science in the humanities as well, as a result of all the frauds in Paris, people like Lacan and Deleuze and Guattari. So I included them and tried to show just how empty their rhetoric is.
You say the new left is experiencing a kind of resurgence right now. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think many people go to university, both students and professors, hoping to find a religion substitute there, something that will give them the clue to the meaning of life, something they can join, that will vitalize them and give them the group to which they belong. People on the left are very good at providing that. That's essentially what the left-wing position is all about. It's about joining with us in the great march into the future. After a period of quiescence, after the fall of communism, I think that need for the the forward march of the multitude has resurged, and it's what the left ministers to. Especially you find this in people like Badiou and Zizek, and you had it in America with those sort of radical leftist legal theorists like Dworkin, whom I take apart in my book. And wherever there are young people, there are those clenched fists punching the future, and that's what the left promises to offer a destiny to.
The original title of this volume and the subtitle of the updated volume is Thinkers of the New Left. How's the new left different from an older left?
Well, the older left, especially in Europe, was the sort of post-war socialist consensus, people who believed in the welfare state, but didn't believe in pulling down all the institutions of Western society. They were mostly decent middle-class people who believed in marriage. Some of them even had a vestige of religious feeling as well. They just wanted to expand the role of the state in human affairs so as to take charge of the weaker members of society. And that was something which was largely a consensus after the Second World War. But the new left came out of the 1960s, the spirit of rebellion among the baby boomers who weren't going to accept authority at all. So that they mingled the cry of liberation with the desire for this new equal society, and were quite happy to spout all the slogans of communism along with the other things that they believed.
You write about a lot of thinkers in this book. You've mentioned a few names here. Tell us about an American that you cover in this book.
Well, I guess. There's several Americans I covered. Galbraith I covered, though he's not really American, he was Canadian. But Dworkin is one of my principal targets. And I think he deserves his place in the book because he was enormously influential. He took hold of the American respect for the Constitution, which is a kind of given even in American left-wing circles. We've got this precious thing, we've got to hold on to it. And he showed people how to interpret it essentially as a radical egalitarian document which could be used to pull down all the traditional institutions and customs of American society. And he did it with clever kind of legalistic advocates' arguments, which pretend to be the highest of jurisprudence. And so I thought I ought to take this apart and show just how vacuous his arguments are.
What's the proper role of an intellectual in a society?
Jolly good question. I think the proper role of an intellectualist is to understand the surrounding society, perhaps offer advice and guidance politely if called upon, and if he witnesses injustice, to draw attention to it, but not to posture as the political savior. That's not the role of the intellectual. And of course, since the Enlightenment, since especially the German revolutionaries of the 19th century, we have suffered from a different kind of intellectual. Someone who, the French revolutionaries, I suppose, set the pattern. Someone who thinks that because he's read a few books, he has the title that the rest of us don't have to lead society into the future. And that, I think, is so dangerous, partly because, I'm a conservative intellectual, and I believe that thinking of an intellectual kind takes you somewhere, but only if you go to the end of it. And then, of course, you come to realize just how humble you should be in the face of the complexity of human affairs. But what we've had are the intellectuals who, after with a smattering of knowledge, take the privilege of guiding us completely.
Last question, we're running out of time. You call yourself a conservative intellectual. We might say you are a thinker of the right. What does that mean, to be on the right?
Yes, it's a good question. It means essentially feeling embarrassed about having read these books and going back to your desk and keeping quiet about it. Recognizing that you're not qualified by the fact that you've got a brain to lead people through all the complex business of everyday life. So that's something that we all should work out for ourselves. So I think the right-wing intellectual, in my view, is the one who retires from the scene, but nevertheless is prepared to give advice.
The author is Roger Scruton. The book is Fools, Frauds, and Firebrands, Thinkers of the New Left. Thanks for listening. The Bookmonger is sponsored by Casper Mattresses. Get $50 toward any mattress purchase by visiting www.casper.com/book and using BOOK as the promo code.
Ricochet. Join the conversation.